All right, and good morning. Hey, Holly Fletcher's with us. Morning, sir, sugar.
Morning, sugar. How you doing?
All right, and it is Firearms Friday. I see Trish. Good morning, good morning. Happy faff to you, too.
Yes, I do enjoy a good faff.
Now, it is, it's a mixed message, actually, that we have this morning. We're probably not even going to get into any DGU stories. I know I love doing those. Like that's what I live my week for. But I imagine we're going to be having this. We're going to have a bit of a conversation here. So the news came out yesterday, and I'm going to show you the CNN article because it's got the headline. It's got the headline we wanted to see. But it's CNN reporting on behalf of the Biden administration. So it says White House withdraws David Chipman's nomination as head of ATF, and that's true. Thankfully, they've realized that America doesn't want this lipless shitburger running the ATF. And before we get into him too much,
I still say you'd only have to paint him green, and then he's an extra in the Lord of the Rings battle scenes, man. He's just... Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!
But, I mean, this frickin'... you know, he reminds me of Steven Crowder talking about Bernie Sanders. And this fucking Muppet who was washed on hot kind of sells it right there. Okay, and we moved the camera, so I'm adjusting the frame for the scene too. There you go. That's better. So, oh my God. It's not just that this guy should not be in charge of the ATF because, well, he's an anti-gun, anti-constitutional terrorist with a history of that. The ATF should not exist. We've gone into this in some detail in the past. The ATF is an exclusively unconstitutional entity. At no point in the history of the United States of America has the Constitution allowed the legal tolerance of what the ATF does. The ATF exists exclusively to enforce laws which are unconstitutional. Not one thing that the ATF does is a power that is ceded to the government by the people through the Constitution. With the sole exception of the 21st Amendment prohibition on alcohol, which was repealed by the 18th Amendment and was not enforced by the ATF during the period of that prohibition, the Constitution mentions nowhere that the federal government has any authority to regulate the production, consumption, procurement, retention, or utilization of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, especially firearms, shall not be infringed. So, quite simply, every single employee of the ATF is a government official who has taken the oath of office as a public servant, as a government employee, taken the oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America in the full knowledge that to do so is you're taking the oath in bad faith. It is a crime to take the oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and then not do that. The ATF does not just fail to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The ATF, by its mere existence, is an active violation. It would be one thing if you had a government official who swore to uphold and defend the Constitution and then just looked the other way and didn't step in to defend it. That's a crime by itself. But the ATF goes out of its way, absolutely out of its way, to violate your constitutional rights every single second that it exists. And this guy, this sack of shit, he wants to be in charge of the ATF. He's a gun ban guy, right? You know, we've talked many times on this show about the Heller decision, and the Heller decision. Look, it's interesting to read Supreme Court cases, and you should, and not just how the case turned out, but read the dissent. Right? If it's not a 9-justice decision, like, you know, the decision, for example, that Texas can't sue anybody, because why should states have nonviolent solutions to interstate problems? Anyway, if it's not a 9-justice decision, there's a dissent, and the dissent is often more telling than the finding, than the actual opinion of the court. The dissent in the Heller case was the liberal judges said there is no individual right to keep and bear arms, that no American citizen should under the law be allowed to own any firearm under any circumstances without being employed by government. That was the opinion of the dissenting leftist judges. This is one of their people.
Yeah.
So Cameron, why is it that we're not celebrating this withdrawal more full-throatedly? I mean, I want to hit the total win button.
Well, long story short, the Biden administration is still going to give David Chipman a job. They're just going to give him a job that doesn't require confirmation. And great. So theoretically, he'll have less influence over policy and decision making and whatnot. Theoretically. But they're still going to give him a job. It's basically a fuck you, is what it is. That, oh, okay. He'll never make it through confirmation. You know, that whole, like, posing over the dead bodies of people from Waco is going to be something that keeps coming up to bite him in the ass over and over again. So instead of putting him as the head of an agency, we're just going to...
Just in case y'all missed that one. It's this guy.
Yeah, that's a guy that's proud of his work. And look, David Koresh was not a nice man. He was a bad dude who probably deserved to get a case of the dead, but that doesn't mean all of the other Branch Davidians, including the women and children, also deserve to catch a case of the dead. So, you know, but yeah, it's a big screw you. They're just gonna slide him sideways, stick him in somewhere else, and he's still going to be the guy that thinks AR-15s, for example, should never be in civilian hands ever. He's still going to be the same guy that when he was questioned by, it was Ted Cruz and one other. This happened a few months ago now, but when he was being questioned in front of the Senate, he did that thing where he would speak words, but he wouldn't actually answer the question. Right. And they were asking him, you know, his personal thoughts on gun control, and he kept saying everything except what his personal thoughts on gun control were. And man, that right there is the main reason I could not be like a congressman or a senator. Because, like, if I haul you in and I sit you down and I swear you in and I ask you questions and then you don't answer the questions, God, I would be furious. I'm angry thinking about it, and it's a thing that has never happened to me and is never going to happen to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that.
Here's hoping.
So yeah, I mean, victory. He's not gonna head the ATF, but really, it's a Pyrrhic victory at best, because
the Biden administration deciding, you know, okay, well, we're gonna give him a job. We couldn't get him the job we want because, well, America doesn't want this man to work for our government, so we're just gonna put him in our government anyway. it reads a lot like, what, Keystone XL pipeline? That's a deal that America made with another country. Screw those guys. Or, oh, I don't know, the Supreme Court found that the eviction moratorium was unconstitutional, and you don't have the authority as any level of government in the United States to just steal freaking property from landowners, from private citizens. And Biden said, you know what? Screw the Supreme Court and the Constitution. I mean, he literally said, I know that this order will not make constitutional muster, but we're putting in a second moratorium since the Supreme Court shut down our first moratorium. We're going to have the CDC issue a second eviction moratorium, and I know that it's not going to pass constitutional muster. It's going to get stricken down by the Supreme Court, but that's going to take them months and months to do. So we're just going to do it anyway. He literally said, I know that this is illegal. I know that I'm committing a crime by doing this, but it's going to take the law a while to catch up with me, so screw them. I'll just do whatever I want. There's no rule of law left in this country. The only thing that we have in this country that masquerades as the rule of law is we have basically brown shirts masquerading as the thin blue line, working for a government that has decided to completely ignore the law in this country and just do whatever the hell they want. Assume, and I mean, the man's talking about vaccine mandates, about mandating vaccines on individual citizens. And like we said on this show, we have not been anti-vaccine on this show, but Jesus, go talk to your doctor. Believe it or not, there are some people that can't take some vaccines because they're allergic to things in vaccines. That's a no shit thing.
Yeah, and besides, maybe you're high risk, maybe not. But look, back to this.
Yeah, go talk to your doctor.
Yeah, go talk to your doctor. And if YouTube has a problem with that, well, whatever.
Then fucking catch a salad. Go ahead.
But I think the language that's being used here is pretty telling. He would have been an exemplary director of the ATF and would have redoubled its efforts to crack down on illegal firearms traffickers and help keep our communities safe from gun violence. Unfortunately, Republicans in Congress have made clear that they intend to use gun crime as a political talking point instead of taking serious steps to address it. That's why they moved in lockstep to block David Chipman's confirmation and why they side with gun manufacturers over the overwhelming majority of...
Sorry.
Okay. Anyhow.
You keep doing that. I'm going to do something else for just a second.
Anyhow, so what Biden's saying, without actually saying it, is that, okay, we're going to withdraw David Chipman. I'm just going to have to find a guy who's similar to David Chipman, who's not so much of a political hot potato that I can appoint as the head of the ATF. Because it's not just David Chipman himself. It's the message that it sends, that the Biden administration is willing to even consider somebody like him. Tells you where their head is at. And look, it could just be that they're trying to throw a bone to their base, that the Biden family appears to be very similar to the Clinton family, where they're not actually ideologically motivated at all. Instead, they just want the money. They want the ability to hold the positions of power so that, Chelsea can get given jobs with like, what was it, CBS or whatever, as a special correspondent. Like, you picture, like, you go to J school and you spend years, like, working the gumshoe beat, and then you finally, like, get to work at Peter Jennings' desk, and then you're finally about to get your correspondence gig, and then, like, William Jefferson Clinton calls Peter Jennings and is like, yeah, guess what? That guy that's been working for you for 11 years, you're going to have to make him wait. You're giving Chelsea a job.
Yeah.
Like... But for whatever reason...
Bill Jeff.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, Biden is willing and able... Well, of course he's able. He's the president. But he's willing to appoint people like David Chipman. So, I mean, the next person that's going to get appointed to that position is just going to be David Chipman Light. And, the funny thing is, beer and light beer still has about the same amount of alcohol content in it. You drink a 6-pack, you're not legal to drive, and it's the same principle here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess he's not the Baltica 9 of cold beers, but okay. So the Dems talk about stuff like, okay, gun control. Unfortunately, Republicans in Congress have made it clear they intend to use gun crime as a political talking point instead of taking serious steps to address it. That's why they've moved in lockstep to block David Chipman's confirmation.
But talk about convection via projection via
confession
via projection.
Projection through confession.
Yeah, or confession through whatever.
Through projection. The Democrats are doing the thing they're saying people do. So it's why they side with gun manufacturers over the overwhelming majority of the American people. That is a lie. That is an outright lie. In opposing common sense measures like universal background checks, we have universal background checks, and they do nothing. Universal background checks only make it harder to buy a gun if you're not a criminal. If you're the kind of person that we would prefer not have a gun, the law doesn't affect you. This isn't complicated.
Wow, Steve's trying to win the top comment badge again. The ATF only exists to take away rights. It needs to be dismantled. And so long, Chipmunk. Try not to step in the ashes of any children on your way back to hell, you son of a bitch.
I'll give it that one. Damn, son. Just go ahead and summarize our program for today. Appreciate you, sugar.
I like calling him Chipmunk, even though he looks like a troll.
But I mean, let's take a look at what Democrat policy looks like. These are the places that vote Democrat. Remember what we were saying yesterday? There are no blue states except for like Hawaii. There are basically red states with blue cancer. And, oh, look at that. That's where the crime lives. Right? And yes, New England is bluer. Especially New York, which isn't technically quite New England. But he looks like Bad Boy from the old tabloids. You're right, Steve. That's...
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is your gun violence map. High incidence of gun violence per the FBI statistics versus the 2012 voting pattern.
I mean, almost identical.
This doesn't come as a surprise to me. Something that you have to understand about Democrats. The Democrat voter. I used to think that Democrat politicians were evil and Democrat voters were just kind of dumb. And the more we see, the more we come to understand. More we saw what happened last year with BLM and Antifa. We saw the girl the other day that threw on the purple-haired gorilla mask and attacked Larry Elder.
God, the racism, just wow.
They're cruel, greedy, racist little shits. So the baseline Democrat voting position is free stuff. I want free college. I want my college loans forgiven. I want somebody else to pay for this. I want somebody else to pay for that. I want to steal your money at gunpoint because my communism. The baseline Democrat voting position, before you can vote Democrat, you have to be morally comfortable with stealing property from a person who has earned it at gunpoint for the benefit of another person. And usually based on immutable characteristics like race, sex, age, disability, etc. The reason you see so much crime in Democrat thick areas is because at the core mentality, to be a criminal and to be a Democrat is the same baseline morality. It is to be comfortable with using force and violence to deprive someone else of life, liberty, and or property.
I think there's an additional layer of complexity to that as well.
No, they're just all evil.
I do think there's an additional layer.
That was mostly a punchline.
Now, there's something in the mentality of the right versus the left where, like, let's say something happens in my life. Let's say something happens in my life, and it's even my fault that the thing happened in my life. The fact that I'm willing to consider the possibility that the thing that happened in my life is my fault, therefore I have the power and the agency to correct the problem. That's a very specific mentality that you don't get in a lot of left-leaning areas.
If I was late to work this morning, I could have gotten up earlier this morning.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
One of y'all could have gotten up earlier this morning. I rolled out of bed at 1:30.
Right, and of course, there's always things that you can't foresee. Like literally, if there's an 18-car pileup right in front of you on the interstate and there's no way to go around it, what's funny is most bosses they're very understanding of that kind of thing. If you're on time to work 99% of the time, the 1% of the time you are hella late, they're gonna look the other way.
So I was hella late to a military movement one time, and it was a big one. It was an emergency deployment readiness exercise. I was 3.5 hours late because there was a big multi-car pileup on the. Okay, so the island of Oahu has 2 highways. One goes around it, and one goes up and down it. And there was an 18-car pileup here, where the 2 of them hit each other. Or 18, I said 18 because that's what you said. But there was a big-ass crash right there. And it didn't just screw up the highway. It shut down all the alternate
feeder
routes.
streets.
And it was an EDRE, an emergency deployment readiness exercise. So the whole unit was 3.5 hours late. It was awful. Anyway,
see, but on the flip side, when you sincerely believe, okay, the kids need something to do after school, so I'm going to vote for more parks and more community centers and shit like that. Oh, there's a problem with guns, so I'm going to vote for the government to restrict guns instead of getting more educated about guns and potentially owning a firearm myself and trying to spread that culture to my family and neighbors. Once you've gotten the mentality where it's somebody else, you can actually tolerate a whole lot more bullshit because it's not your fault. It's so easy to blame the other and say, well, the only reason there's all this crime is the other. I mean, we're doing the right thing. We're voting for the politicians that say they're going to clean it up, and they pass initiative after initiative after initiative. For some reason, we just can't quite put it together that the reason why criminals don't follow the law is because they're criminals, and they're criminals because they don't follow the law. And it's wildly circular and yet completely self-contained logic that explains the entire problem. And yeah.
I hope I have this picture. You're talking about, raising the kids, teaching them right. Well, this was a good day. This was a good day teaching some kids right. My baby brother's reserve unit. I was a little less shaggy then, but I mean, we went out to a public park and broke out the airsoft guns and did a very basic rifle marksmanship course for a bunch of Army Reserve privates. Shiny new pennies. Damn, there was one in particular I wanted to show you of Vera, but I don't see it. I'm not going to waste any more time looking for it. So,
hey, we got a few minutes. Could we try and squeeze in a DGU?
Yeah,
please.
We can try and grab one DGU. I'll throw the scoreboard up there. We'll just grab a random DGU off of the resource site. We could totally pull one. I like it.
Yeah, that's... I like how the top comment is based. Armed robber shot in the face by armed victim in Texas just days after permitless carry begins.
Hell yes.
Everything about that sentence. Ooh.
Yep.
If you survive, look, if you somehow, an armed robber was shot in the face when his victim pulled out his own gun and shot at him. Just days after a Texas law went into effect allowing residents to carry handguns without permits, he was shot in the face one time. He's in the hospital. He's going to live. He's conscious and breathing right now. Okay, that can't be a BRM. If you hit somebody in the face...
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to call that an honorary DRT.
Yeah. Yeah. Like... when God decides to intervene and says, no, it's not time for this one to come home yet. He gets a second chance. Like, that's, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we covered that. And, yeah, the permitless carry just went into effect in Texas. And let's just see real quick.
I mean, I hate to do the old saw, but, I mean, I've already got a permit. It's the Second Amendment.
Yep.
I mean, state laws shouldn't even have to reaffirm that. Now, they do, and God bless states that are willing to do that, but still.
So, this year, Texas decided to go more Merca on your right to keep and bear arms. California is, well, it's California. Violent crime in 4 of California's major cities, Los Angeles, Oakland, San Diego, and San Francisco, is broadly no higher than before the pandemic, although some violent crimes are up. Most troubling is a rise in assaults and homicides, which have stayed at roughly the same level over the last few months, with no clear... Who the hell is the public policy... Oh, of course. So, they're showing... Okay, yep, there you go. The crime rate hasn't changed. Oh, wait. But the homicide and assault rate, guys, that is your violent crime. Okay? Oh, well, rapes aren't up. Okay, that's a good thing. But oh my God. California's also seen a steep rise in shoplifting and things like that because they've just straight up said we're not going to enforce that law. If you steal, I think it's less than $900 worth of stuff. So basically, you walk into Walmart and pick you up an $850 TV and walk out the front door. California's just not going to prosecute you.
Oh, see, my inner fat boy would come out. I'd get like $500 worth of steak.
Well, and I mean, screw it. Get your TV at one Walmart. Go down the street to the next one. Go down the street to the next one.
Hey, and then...
Those are individual incidences under 500 or under 1,000 or whatever the cutoff is. Just
look, and then find a Best Buy, and then I get my own microphone.
Right? And then go put your tent up on the street and just open shop.
Till somebody comes and steals all that stuff from you.
I own a gun. Let's go to Nevada. Just take it all to Texas. I have a gun. Let's go. I wouldn't go as far as God bless them. Look at the restrictions on locations that come with both permitted and permitless carry.
Yeah, morning, Alex. Thanks for the...
Yeah, morning. The restrictions on locations that come with both permitted and permitless carry. Yeah, it does chap my ass, Alex, every time I see a government facility, like, for example, a courthouse, where there's a magnetometer at the front door. I will say I did have an experience in a courthouse recently that really gave me a deep understanding of why I shouldn't be allowed to carry a gun in a courthouse.
I don't know what you're talking about, buddy.
But yes, every time I see a building that I, as a taxpayer, own, that would be every government building.
All of them.
all of them with a magnetometer on it, I just want to sign another Declaration of Independence.
Right.
And yeah, in Georgia, this is an oversimplification, but basically in Georgia, you can carry anywhere that doesn't have a magnetometer. The law requires the individual facilities to take active steps to prevent you carrying your weapon if they want to do that, and if they choose not to, then that is the same as permitting you to carry. I'm not going to get into it in detail right now. Go read the law on that one. But broadly, that's the case. As long as you're licensed and concealed. Georgia's trending in the right direction on that for now, or at least it started to.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right.
Yay.
Yeah. Actually, hang on a minute. I was in college. I was back in college when they passed the campus carry rules. And I was working with a bunch of kids in a film class, and I don't remember what it was, but I had to use my pocket knife for something, right? Mm-hmm. We had like a box with a new piece of equipment in it, tape on it or something, and I pulled out my little like apple skin and pocket knife and cut the tape, and one of the students, this like 18, 19-year-old kid, sees me pull out that pocket knife. He's like, "Aren't you afraid you're going to get in trouble for having that on the campus?" And I'm like, and I looked at him. I was like, "Okay, I normally don't brag about this to people randomly, but son, you need to go learn the law. You need to go get smart on the law. I'm wearing a revolver because the law says that's okay. You need to go get smart on this shit. Go read you something. I recommend you start with the Constitution."
Yes, and just one other thing to touch on, even though we're right here at the end and we got to get out. Dude, tomorrow is 20 years.
Yes, it is. For reasons beyond my control and, yeah, I'm not going to be available to do it. Otherwise, we would do a special show tomorrow.
I understand, but it's worth noting that it's been 20 years.
20 years since the Taliban announced itself as since the Taliban basically came on and said, "Hey, we're the new American whack-a-mole," and boy did we whack 'em. Until we got this shitbag in office. Okay, now I'm getting depressed. Y'all, thanks for watching. I'm going to run the new stinger one more time because most especially Steve and Alex were late to the party this morning, so y'all missed the new stinger. So I'm going to run that one time before the intro, and we will see you guys Monday morning. Love you. Y'all be safe out there. Oh, safety brief. It's Friday. We're going into the weekend. Y'all be safe out there. Don't drive, drink. Don't drink bacon with cold water, and sex, drugs, rock and roll, firearms, and farm animals, and videotape. No two at the same time. Y'all take care, and we'll see you Monday.